AM 1480 WLEA.
The week started with power outages locally. We got a capital project update from the Hornell school system. Canisteo Village Hall announced they might expand the fire hall. According to Republican Congressman Tom Reed, helped vote in John Boehner back as Speaker of the House. We have John Buckley on in segment 2 to talk about that. Hornell Mayor Shawn Hogan here in segment 1 to talk about the hospital and other local issues.
It's time for Top Story on AM 1480 WLEA Hornell. Here's Brian O'Neill.
Hornell Mayor Shawn Hogan, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Brian.
Shawn, what do we have as far as the latest news on St. James Hospital? What's going on there?
Well, they're still working through the proposal for the new vision. Right now, things have they've been working on putting together applications for funding through the DSRIP process, which is Medicaid redesign. There's a pool of about $8 billion there that the state received from the federal government, which is going to be pivotal in getting some funding for a new building. As you know, the model is to move to ambulatory care, which would consist of a freestanding emergency room. So we would have emergency room services here with observation beds, and then to include laboratory services, diagnostic, X-ray, physical therapy, lab work, where you could still have lab work done, your X-rays. Everything would be the same unless you need a hospital stay of any extent of a period beyond 48 hours. That part's all good. I'm not thing there. But what we have been fighting for, the physicians and a coalition of physicians and local leaders throughout our region have been fighting for a limited inpatient presence of up to 10 beds and maternity services. We all understand the face of healthcare is changing, and we all understand that there's a lot of pressures on healthcare brought by the Affordable Care Act, also by shrinking reimbursements for insurance companies and from Medicaid, and that we're in a great period of turmoil in the healthcare industry. And this isn't just a problem for Hornell, it's a problem for the nation and a problem for the state and other areas. Brockport had their hospital went under. Lakeside. There's one down in near Dunkirk called Lakeshore that is struggling and hoping to stay alive with a limited inpatient presence and have some hospital services. So, all the news isn't bad, and I will say that, we will have significant health care here. What we need, though, we do need some inpatient presence. We can't have people, elderly people and the poor with lack of transportation driving to Dansville or Wellsville over substandard roads. And we need maternity services. That's what we're fighting for. And also we need to ensure that our partnership is with the University of Rochester Medicine, and that they should also have some, stakes in this game, and also lend their well-respected name to healthcare here in this community. So it's still in a state of flux. I don't think the battle's lost. I think that I don't think people should fear that there won't be any medical care here. There will be, and it'll be significant, and we'll have a lot of different offerings. What we're fighting for is a limited inpatient presence and the maternity services, and it's as simple as that. And so, I've recently said in the meeting, if it's truly going to be a regional collaboration of the healthcare facilities in our region, which is Jones and Noyes, then why don't they make Hornell the center for women's health issues, including maternity here, and send all the OBGYN and all the maternity cases to Hornell? If the other hospitals are going to maintain inpatient services and continue to maintain maternity wards and stuff, and it's going to be a true regional partnership, why not have maternity services in one place? And all those patients come here. And so instead of each hospital having, 300 births a year, we'll have one central location, which is Hornell is the centrally located institution by our geography and how we're placed. Make that the center of women's health and maternity services. That was what I suggested at a recent meeting. I don't know how it was received. We'll see. But I'm still in contact with the health department on a daily basis, having discussions with them. They're in our corner. They certainly want to preserve health care here in locally. And, recently, I think it was yesterday, an individual wrote a letter to the paper blaming Governor Cuomo and that this is a political issue. That's ridiculous. And it's not a political issue, and it's not political payback. This is the nature of health care. The reason we're in this situation is because, number one, the sponsor, the owner of the hospital, Trinity Health, does not want to run the hospital, and they want out, and so that's what's created the crisis. And number two, St. James is broke. Has nothing to do with politics or Governor Cuomo. So I want to dispel that as just a ridiculous conspiracy theory that has nothing to do with nothing.
I can't imagine why he would care to shut down Hornell. Who would he be mad at?
Right. Well, it's ridiculous. So, I just want to go on record dispelling that, and the governor has nothing to do with it. If anything, the governor has been very supportive and given me access and made sure I was at the table at some of these discussions. So, we'll see how this plays out. But if anyone's fearful that, if they need to go to emergency room, they'll have to drive to Wellsville or Dansville, that's not the case. We will have a 24-hour, 365 days emergency room service here. We see about 18,000, 19,000 emergency room visits a year in Hornell. They're going to be here. And also urgent care. So what we're fighting for is, like I say, limited inpatient presence of 10 to 15 beds in maternity services.
We're talking with Hornell Mayor Shawn Hogan in segment one of Top Story. Mayor Hogan, you covered three issues recently at a council meeting: the Lowe's pilot deal and tying up some loose ends in the 1992 Walmart deal and the 1999 airport deal. So you have three issues there: Lowe's, Walmart, and the airport. Anything you wanted to cover there?
I think it's a great deal for everybody. I think it extended the length of the pilot through Lowe's. And I want to give credit to the Industrial Development Agency and Jim Griffin for really carrying doing the heavy lifting on the negotiation with Lowe's and convince them to see the merit in extending the pilot, which is significantly more than they would be paying in property taxes, and also bringing the parties together to resolve some of these issues. And I think it really sets the stage for future cooperation between the local governments and our valley. What it allows us to do after this year is to have an airport that's totally tax exempt, because the airport now will be within the city boundaries because we're annexing that into the city. And also the Ellis Park, the old Ellis Farm, is going to be part of our community. So we will be able to promote and fully develop the property which the IDA owns, which we hadn't been able to do because of recent legislation in the state. Once it's inside the corporate boundaries, it'll be heavily promoted for economic development purposes or commercial purposes. So it'll be a win-win-win for all involved. And, like I say, I want to give credit where credit's due. In this instance, it was the IDA and Jim Griffin in using his influence with Lowe's to convince them in the merits of extending the pilot pod for one more year, possibly 3 more years. So I think it brings a significant amount of money in pilot payments, particularly to North Hornell, who received this year. They were going to get about maybe $20,000, and ended up getting $200,000. So that's a wonderful New Year's gift for the village of North Hornell. Plus, it's about $90,000 to the town and $90,000 to the city, and over $126,000 to the school district. That they weren't going to see that kind of money. So it was a nice windfall, and it helps out the local budgets, and it solves a lot of the longstanding legal issues, and it really points in a positive direction for 2015.
And on the topic of 2015, any predictions or anything you can tell us about plans in the works for 2015?
There's all kinds of good things happening. I think there will be some tremendously positive events that are going to continue at Alstom. There's going to be other industries that are going to be taking advantage of our Startup New York partnership with Alfred University and Alfred State College. We have, working with both those institutions, we have included Startup New York designated properties in our community, which is going to be helpful to our economic development efforts. Of course, we're going to continue our growth in our commercial base with new stores, hopefully more activity downtown. Want to get some of these more prominent vacancies we have, working with the building owners to get them filled up. So yeah, there's all kinds of things on. We're got the planning office working on updating our master plan. Heather Kaczynski, our city planner, has been charged with that, and she'll be working on that here in early 2015. So there's a lot going on. We want to continue to promote and encourage the renovation of buildings downtown into living quarters. And we will see the completion of the Federation project and get access and use to the auditorium there. So there's all kinds of great things. The theater opened up late in 2014, and it's wildly successful. And we're very proud of that, and having playing a role in getting them here, and it really has enhanced our quality of life. And we're excited and raring to go for 2015.
Mayor Shawn Hogan, thanks for joining us.
No problem, Brian. Have a good one.
John Buckley coming up next. Good morning and back on Top Story. Brian O'Neill now on the line with Hornell Republican leader, Hornell 9th Ward Alderman, Deputy Mayor John Buckley. Thanks for joining us.
Well, that's a mouthful, Brian.
You wear a lot of hats. John Buckley, first of all, Keystone Pipeline.
The House of Representatives voted for it this week. It'll go to the U.S. Senate next week. So the Obama administration has already indicated that it's dead on arrival, and which is too bad because that's much needed jobs for Americans, and President Obama likes to talk about energy independence and not being reliant on Middle East countries for our energy needs, but unfortunately he does a lot of talking, but when it comes time to walk the walk, doesn't do anything to back it up. So, but the other thing is, I think he's playing to the environmental crowd. You have all these environmental wackos that they're basically just against anything. Assemblyman Noje refers to them as cavers, and that's citizens against virtually anything. And the problem is, you try to appeal to these people, and in doing so, you're basically ignoring the needs of the country because the oil sands where the oil is being extracted from in Canada, even if we decide not to go through the XL pipeline, that doesn't stop them from producing that. That oil will still be extracted and sold to Russia, China, and other countries. So it's right in our backyard. It makes sense for us to to put that pipeline in place, create those jobs, and get off foreign oil even more so than we already are. I mean, Canada, a lot of people don't realize Canada is actually the number one oil producing country as far as our imports go. We get more oil from Canada than the other countries. A lot of people automatically think of Saudi Arabia and some of the Middle East countries, but Canada is actually our number one importer.
Which brings me to my next question. John Boehner, will he go up against Obama on this? That's question part one about Boehner.
Well, I don't have a lot of faith in Boehner. I've been critical of Boehner on your show before, Brian, as you know. I like to say John Boehner is good at two things: smoking cigarettes and basically bowing down to whatever Obama wants. And we've seen that time and time again. I know he was just elected House Speaker once more. I wish that the House Republicans would have went in another direction, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, and that's what we're stuck with. So you have to make the best of it. With the new numbers in the House, that does give me some hope that maybe he'll be a little bit of a stronger leader than he has in past years, because in past years he hasn't. He's been taken to school by President Obama time and time again. But now, it might be a little bit different, because the Republicans not only gained the Senate, but they also added numbers to the House, to strengthen their numbers overall. So, I guess you'll just have to stay tuned and see what happens over the course of the next few months and in the next couple of years. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Now, Congressman Tom Reed, our congressman, he issued a statement the night of the vote for Boehner, and he explained, yes, I voted for Boehner last year. I tried to get Marlin Stutzman in there. That didn't work out, so Reed said he went for Boehner, and Reed said he didn't have a lot of confidence in the candidates who were doing the last-minute attempts to undo John Boehner getting his post back as House Speaker. Your thoughts on the Reed vote?
Well, Tom makes a good point, because a lot of people, including myself, aren't big John Boehner fans. But what's the next option? If there's not, another option, I kind of equate it to the NFL. Every year, there's an NFL team that's struggling, and there's calls to fire the coach. Well, the thing is, it's all well and good to get rid of the coach, but at the end of the day, who are you replacing that person with? If you're replacing that person with a weaker person, then did you do yourself any good? And the answer is no. And with the Republicans in this case, there wasn't really that one person that was stepping up that had that groundswell of support. You had a couple people out there that were interested, but they never really gained any momentum. And at the end of the day, like Tom Reed says, he looked around, and John Boehner was still the guy. So I mean, it is what it is, and you go with what you have. So we'll just hope for the best.
And not to play spokesman for Tom Reed here, and I'm not, but I think if you want to say Reed's abandoned the Tea Party, I would have to say that's not completely true, because the first and biggest thing Reed has done since his re-election is try to pressure the governor to go along with fracking, and it seems that Reed is working with Chris Collins, and Chris Collins, the Erie County, Livingston County Republican congressman, says that he's going to use everything, every committee assignment and subcommittee assignment to promote fracking for New York State, which is a big Tea Party view. So I don't think that Reed has again, I'm not playing spokesman, but I don't think he has completely abandoned the Tea Party, John.
No, I don't think he has. I mean, he still has the conservative principles, and I'll tell you what, a person like Tom Reed is in a very difficult situation with some of these votes that he makes, because there's a lot of votes out there, a lot of bills that they vote on that honestly, the bill will have some good in it and it'll have some bad in it. And you're put in an uncomfortable position where if you vote no, then you're voting no on the good portion of the bill. And if you vote yes, then there's some bad attached to it too. And we see that in New York State. And I'll give you a good example. Some of the state budgets that our own assemblymen have to vote on. Whether it's Bill Noje or Phil Palmisano or a Chris Friend or a Joe Giglio. Some of the state budgets include some things that honestly, aren't necessarily good for the state, but there's other things that are. So you have to weigh the good versus the bad. And I know there's been times where, Assemblyman Noje and Assemblyman Palmisano have had different votes on the same bill or the same budget. So you really have to, weigh, how much good versus how much bad is in the bill, because a lot of these bills or budgets are so complex and contain so many different items that it's just not as simple as, picking out one or two things and saying, well, you voted for that or you voted against it. It's very complex, and unless you're a political nerd like myself or Brian, but a lot of people don't really see a lot of that.
We are out of time now. John Buckley, thanks for joining us.
Stay warm, everyone.